First grade, you have been working so hard today. You learned how we sit to write, you learned how we hold our pencil, you learned the different parts of the paper and the direction we read and write. And then you even saw Mr. Guerrero, who was showing you how to get ready to write. So we're almost ready to start making our clock strokes. But before we write them, we're just going to talk through how we do this. All right, so there's 5 different kinds of strokes that we're going to use to write our phonograms. The first stroke we're going to learn is a clock stroke. The first thing we need to know before we write our clock stroke is where we put the tip of our pencil to start writing. We call that the starting spot. So for every phonogram where we put the tip of our pencil to write it, we call that the starting spot. Now for our clock stroke, where's our starting spot? I'll tell you. We start over a space just below the dotted line. So over a space just below the dotted line. Now where on the clock do we start our clock stroke? It's at 2 on the clock. Now where do I go from my 2 on the clock? I'm going to curve up and touch the dotted line. Then where do I go from the dotted line? I'm going to curve down and touch 10, and then I'm going to lift my pencil. All right, so now I'm going to ask the questions and I want you to tell me the answers. So where is the starting spot for the clock stroke? Good, so we're going to, I forgot to say this last time, right? We always start close to the margin or the last stroke that we made. So if you already made a clock stroke and you're going to make another, you're going to start close to that clock stroke. So close to the margin or your last stroke, where do we go? Good, over a space and just below the dotted line. And where on the clock do I touch? Where on the clock is my first touch point? Where am I first going to touch? Good, it's 2. All right, and now tell me how to write a clock stroke. Good, I'm going to curve up and touch the dotted line. And now what? Good, curve down and touch 10. Excellent job. All right, so let's go through our clock stroke one more time. If I want to make a clock stroke, where do I start? Good, I would start close to the margin or the last stroke I made. And then what? Good, I go over a space and just below the dotted line. Where do I touch on the clock? Good, touch 2 on the clock. From there, what do I do? Good, I curve up and touch the dotted line. And what next? Good, I'll curve down and touch 10, and then I'm going to lift my pencil. All right, class, if you have been practicing sitting up straight, finding your writing spot, slanting your paper correctly in it, and holding your pencil correctly, then we're now ready to start making our first clock strokes. So we're going to talk to our pencil while we're writing. That's telling the pencil how to move. Until we can make our clock strokes correctly, we're going to talk to our pencil, and that's going to help us. So you should have a sheet of paper that looks like this if you've been able to pick up the materials from the school. If you haven't then yet, you can still watch this video. You can practice tracing in the air or tracing on the table in front of you, how you would make the clock strokes, and keep talking through it. Right, then when you do have this paper, you'll be able to watch this again and write your clock strokes on this paper. So you can see there's going to be several different papers. This one, though, it shows you the whole clock stroke, and then it does just the first part of the clock stroke, which is what we're going to work on for right now. Now, when I'm writing, I could see, you don't want to be rushing and just filling up the paper with clock strokes that might not be beautiful or very accurate. It's okay to go a little bit slower, and we're going to have to go kind of slow because we're talking through it. So I don't want to rush and fill up my paper. I'm going to try and make everything as beautiful as I can. All right, so I'm going to get ready to write and pick up my pencil. All right, we're going to talk through it while we do it. So just watch the first time. To make my clock stroke, I'm going to start close to the margin or my last stroke. This is my first one, so it's close to the margin. I'm going to go over a space and just below the dotted line and touch 2 on the clock. I'm going to curve up and touch the dotted line, curve down and touch 10, and lift. All right, so I did my first clock stroke. I'll talk through it this time, but I want you to get ready to write and pick up your pencil. You're going to do it with me, and I want you to talk through it as we do it. All right, so we're starting close to our last stroke. We're going to go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10, and we'll lift our pencil. Right. The first few times you can see there are little dots there to help you. That lets you know where your starting spot is. Okay, so let's do the next one. You should be talking through it with me. So make sure you're sitting correctly. From our last stroke, we'll go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10, and lift. All right, let's do another one. Talk through it with me. We'll go over a space from our last stroke, just below the dotted line, and touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10. All right, let's do another one. See how I'm moving so you can see. I was out of room in my writing spot, so I moved my paper. I didn't move myself. All right, so from our last stroke, we're going to go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10, and lift. All right, now pretty soon we're out of dots, but we're still going to keep doing it. We're just being a little more independent now that the dots aren't there. So go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Talk through it with me. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, and touch 10. All right, let's do it again. Go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10. Let's do another one. Go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10. Right, let's do another one. Over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, and touch 10. Once more. Over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10. All right, now we're most of the way through that first line of our clock strokes. Let's just do another 1 or 2. Over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Curve up, touch the dotted line, curve down, touch 10. Where's our starting spot? Good. Over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Now what? Good. Curve up, touch the dotted line, and good. Curve down, touch 10. All right, one more time. I'm not going to talk through it this time, but I want you to talk through it. All right, so you should have about your first line filled up with your very first clock strokes. All right, so you can go take a break, and then later on today I want you to come back, and you've got the second line here that you can use to practice your clock strokes on. All right, great work. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you tomorrow. our first grade. Bye.